Hey everyone, welcome to another video. I'm going to record this early. I'm actually recording this a week before it goes out, just so I can kind of have a cache of videos in this series kind of built up in case I miss a week, so I don't have to play catch up. Of course, this is a continuation of my video where I'm going to go through every Marvel comic from 1985, so 40 years back, by month, by week. So even, this is technically the end of February, last week of February. I'm going to drop this on the first week of March, which we're going to go through the first week of March of 1985. So we'll keep going with this one. Technically, it's week 10 of 1985, and I'm not going to go through the whole month this time like the last one. Last video I was just trying to play catch up to kind of get up to speed. So we're going to do this week by week. So it might not be as long, but then again I might throw some CBRs up there so you can see some of the interior work of some of these comics, some of the keys, especially the ones that I had. So let's just dive into it. Let me just jump over here, put myself in the corner. All right, we're back to this website again. This is the marvelfandom.com wiki. And this is category week 10 of 1985. They do have, by the way, a DC version of this. I believe it's in this. It shows up blue, and I believe it's in the same website. I found it at one point, and I'm assuming it still exists. I haven't really gone back to look for it. But again, I'm staying with Marvel because primarily that's all I bought in 1985. Like I said, I did get the Dark Knight. I did get stuff like the Watchmen, but that was about it. I mean, Crisis on Infinite Earths. I'm trying to think. Not a lot. Sometimes the Teen Titans, but this is basically when I first started. So unless somebody pointed it out to me, at this time, because like I said, if it's 1985 and it's March, I'm still 11, and I'm still in 6th grade. So unless somebody pointed it out, or it just caught my eye or something, I probably wasn't aware of it. I had, like I said, I had a lot of this stuff at that time, not necessarily, as far as the DC stuff, not necessarily right off the rack. Sometimes it would go, like someone would say, hey, that Watchmen, and then I was like, oh, that's what that is. And then I went back and got a couple issues, easy to get back issues, because a lot of them were still, like, in the spinner rack. Sometimes they, like I said, they bundle them together. My bookstores, there was 2 bookstores in town, and I've talked about them before, Rochester Book Center and Fireside Books in Winchester Mall. Both of those bookstores actually were owned by the same owner, and so they're kind of sister stores. I didn't find that out until one time I returned something, and they gave me store credit, and they said, oh, by the way, you can use this at our other store, Fireside. And I go, oh, I didn't know you guys were the same store. They were. So both of them would take a lot of their back issues. If they didn't rip the covers off and send them back for credit, they would bundle them up in these little 3-packs and put a piece of cardboard in the middle. Not a backing board, a literal piece of corrugated cardboard. And I don't even think they were shrink wrapped. I think like saran wrapped together. And so I know I got a few Watchmen issues that way, and a few other kind of, I know a lot of stuff would end up in there, like the Marvel Fanfare, Marvel Age, and what was not Fantagraphics? What was Neil Adams' company? Something Graphics or something. I can't remember it off the top of my head. But he had a company, and they had a comic series out called Tales or Echo of Future Past. I don't know if you remember that. That was, whenever I see the one cover where they're like astronauts jumping or diver, whatever that thing is, it's like, whoa, that just takes me right back to that, exactly right back to the time. So does a lot of these covers, but that one, just because I kept seeing it over and over again, those little saran wrapped little packages. All right, let's get back to it. So as you can see, this on week 10, we've got Alpha Flight. Picked that up. I was a big Alpha Flight person. I think what really sold me on Alpha Flight at the time was obviously Sasquatch was cool. Box, I thought Box, robots, anything with that, like Colossus, or they did the same thing with Colossus, but when artists would draw like the muscles and like an arm or chest or whatever, and they do those like like almost horizontal lines that they would like, they would go, you know, with each muscle like in the arm, so they were all kind of intersecting, and it was all white, and then they'd take like that sky blue and then they would shade it with the sky. I just loved that so much, especially if they put like the black marks into it for shading to make it have that chrome look to it, silver look to it. I loved that. So Box obviously had a lot of that going on, and so I still love drawing Box. And of course, Sasquatch was cool, and of course, this is right about the time I started liking the ladies. So of course, Aurora was pretty neat. And this is when she had her short haircut. That bob that she had in that other suit where she showed more skin. So it was like, oh wow. Like I said, I'm 11 going on 12, so I'm hitting that time. Anyways, what do we got here? We got Amazing Spider-Man number 265. That was the Fox showed up in that issue. I had that issue. I bought that one off the rack. Anything with Black Spider-Man, it's just like, as soon as I saw Black Spider-Man, I didn't really care what it was. So I got a lot of the web ofs, obviously Peter Parker. As soon as I saw Black Spider-Man, I was like, oh God, I gotta have it. That particular issue, I'm trying to think. Oh, let's flip to it. Let's go. Let's pop it up. Okay, here we go. Let's flip to it. I just put a few, like I said, I'm going to put the key issues in here that I had and have on CBR on hand here. So there's your Spider-Man. Who is it? Ron Friends. I was going to say who's doing the artwork right now. It's Ron Friends. Ron Friends did it for quite a long time, and I really associate a lot of the Black Spider-Man costume to Ron Friends. I know Mike Zeck, I think, was the original creator of it when he designed them for Secret Wars, I think. I'm not 100% positive on that. Correct me if I'm wrong. But Ron Friends was really the one. Obviously McFarlane did them, and various artists, of course, were known for doing that. I said Mike Zeck being a big one. Oh, sorry. But Ron Friends was the one I really associate with that costume, especially in these issues. I'm just gonna say, I know the Fox shows up again. They chase him around, blah blah blah. Just interesting to see how they're still, he's still drawing everything pretty close to how Romita was drawing him. Keeping Mary Jane pretty close. Norman, I think that's Norman. I don't think that's... What's his face? Is it? I can't remember. I haven't reread this in a pretty long time. His son, I don't think it's his son. I think that's Norman. I don't think it's his son. It's funny, obviously McFarlane did the Fox there pretty famously, so you can tell that McFarlane probably borrowed a lot from Friends' version of that. But as much as, I was in love with McFarlane's art back when he was on Amazing Spider-Man, which is, we'll get to that way down the line when we get into that, because that'll be an interesting time. But I gotta say, I just liked the tight panels, the tight art. I liked everything better. Friends, I just thought was such a better artist. And here's, sorry, Silver Sable showed up in this. That guy's head is way too far back. But yeah, Silver Sable showed up in this, of course. And it's funny, Silver Sable, I liked her a lot, but she kind of reminded me of, like, is she Black Cat? Not Black Cat. Sorry, is she Black Cat? Is she Black Widow? She's like the Black Widow cat. That's like, she's this, secret agent. Or actually, if she was a mercenary, I can't. She a mercenary? I think she was a mercenary. A hired gun. And then, but then she had the white hair, like Black Cat. And sometimes, I would confuse it. I'd be like, oh, is that Black? No, it's Silver Sable. But I like them both. Like, again, anything with this all white, and then you just use the black lines to show like a where the light would catch it, and then do like a light blue, a sky blue, which is a specific color, a Doc Martin specific color that they would use to shade it. I just love that. It's like so cool on a page. I mean, it's just like there's a lot of those little things that they would put in comics that don't really exist much anymore. If they do, they're really exaggerated, and I just think it's overdone. And again, I think one thing I really liked about old comic books, or older comic books, they're not old to me. I remember when they're new, so. But I really like the solid backgrounds with nothing back there. You've got like some background here. They're in this room. They try to keep it somewhat consistent. And I always love the grid for a floor, and then those shiny lines, the black lines that show the shine going down. And then of course action lines like this. But I just like these empty background panels, especially during action stuff or close-ups. I always just love that. They don't do that much anymore. They either, as I said, they get weird with it, and if they do it, I don't know. I just think I just like this artwork a lot better, and I think a lot of it also has to do with the flat coloring too. I just love flat coloring. I mean, when they do shades, it's they're using this other Doc Martin, this darker peach color as opposed to this lighter peach. It's shaded. You've got the black lines are for shading, right? Especially here. I mean, it's heavily shaded. And then you've got a tone, a shade, you got a tone, which is actually no tone, it's just white. And then you've got a tone here for shade. So you still got a two-tone shade on it, so it's not just super flat, but it's only in certain panels. Obviously, they don't need it in this one, but this close-up one they want it, and that subtlety in there, it just draws you right in, and it's so amazing, especially on these these recolored pages that they do for the omnibuses and and the collections and stuff, or those new facsimiles that are out. I just love that. Of course, there's the Black Spider-Man costume. And, I like the way Friends did Peter. He didn't make him totally look like a 40-year-old, 20-year-old. But, I mean, and again, here's the other thing. I like Aunt May being the old woman. I don't like her being the, the younger, attractive girl. And especially with Peter, I like Peter to look like, I don't know what age he is. He's not a high school kid, because he's clearly... he's working, he's a young adult, somewhere in his 20s, and I like that so much better, because, I mean, that's, for the most part, every character, not everyone, but, I mean, most of your characters, I mean, they're pretty much their prime age. They're 18 to 24-year-old people. So, some are a little older, some, are younger, high school age and whatnot, like young New Mutants, stuff like that. But I liked when they were like that 18 to 20, college age. They're college age kids, or college age young adults. Some of them are working, some of them are going to school, whatever. But that's like their prime age. I like that better than the other. Just every time Black Spider-Man shows up, I just love the costume, love drawing him so much. I love when they did this real dark where you didn't have a lot of the blue, which is true blue, by the way. That's the color. I can't remember the Doc Martin number, but it's true blue. I loved it when they would do this, especially in darker areas, where this red's supposed to be darker, and then they would not highlight him as much, and they did this all dark stuff. McFarlane did that a lot, and just did little small bits. Sorry, I guess I'm going off a lot on this issue, but. What was my thing? I just wanted to know what was in it besides the Foxes, right? Silver Sable shows up. Okay, so we'll stop that one. Trust me, I won't bore you with every page of Gru. Let's go back. Here we go. Okay. Captain America did not read him at the time. I'm gonna guess. I don't know if it's Mike Zeck on that one. I can't remember. I know Mike Zeck was doing it around that time. I think Zeck was still doing Secret Wars at this particular moment, so he might not have been on the book. I know Zeck ended up doing a long run in Captain America, and I really like the long run of Mike Zeck, especially when the Diamondback and the Serpent Societies in it. Love those issues. But at the time, here's the thing. I've said this 1,000 times, millions of times, maybe not millions, but I've said it a lot in past videos. I've said it on, it's a regular conversation piece for me and my friends that usually comes up almost, every time we talk about comics. And the thing is, especially when we're comparing stuff like the MCU, nobody cared, for the most part, about the Avengers back at this time period, 1985. I mean, the Avengers comic was going. I liked it. Some people liked it. I'm not saying nobody liked it, but I'm just saying is, for the most part, everybody was reading Amazing Spider-Man, or one of the Spider-Man titles, usually Amazing Spider-Man, and everybody's reading Uncanny X-Men. Those were the heavy hitters of the 80s of Marvel, and they continued that way up into the 90s. Jim Lee and, with X-Men and Spider-Man, obviously you had Jim Lee on Spider-Man, and or who else, and then you had, and then of course X-Force and all the X titles went crazy. They made a cartoon. What was the other big one? Spider-Man. McFarlane got him huge. Obviously the Black Spider-Man thing was huge. Gang War was huge. Kraven's Last Hunt was huge. Against McFarlane Spider-Man, and then and then the cartoon, everything into the 90s. So by and large, for Marvel, the two #1 titles were Amazing Spider-Man and X-Men. And that's no surprise that they sold those movie rights, to Sony when they were going through bankruptcy in the 90s, to kind of save themselves. And of course, those are their two things they had, and they sold the rights off. So when they came time to do, Marvel Studios wanted to make the cinematic universe, they had nothing left but the Avengers. They had to go Avengers. I mean, and then they kind of, I guess, obviously people started liking, today people like the Avengers because of those movies, but it's almost like they kind of forced people, like, that's all we got. We can't do X-Men, and Sony's got it, X-Men and Spider-Man, so you're going to have to take Avengers. That's just how it was. Doctor Strange. I've never been a Doctor Strange. I always thought it looked cool when I was a kid. It just kind of looked neat with the different colors, but I've never really been a Doctor Strange fan. So I barely ever, I might have flipped through one of the books as a kid, but I passed on Strange, another Doctor Who magazine. Dune had just, David Lynch's Dune had just come out, with, of course, Sting in it as Fade, and I don't think I'm pretty sure, I know I had it at one time, the Dune miniseries, the movie adaptation from Marvel, because I think it's Bill Sienkiewicz, I think, was doing it, although I'm not a huge Bill Sienkiewicz fan. But I think, but I know I did not, I saw that on the shelf. How was that issue? I think I might have picked one up, again, in one of those little, little packets. I think I got a Dune one, because what they would do is they would trick you. They would put like a comic on one side and a comic on the other side. You couldn't tell what the middle one was. You could kind of try to look, but you really couldn't tell what it is. So you had a surprise comic on the end. It was like $1. At the time, comics are 65 cents, 75 cents. So you get 3 of them. You get them in a deal. You just don't know what that mystery one is in the middle, and you'd end up with stuff like Echo Future Past, or a Marvel fan for it, or you would end up with a Doctor Strange. Usually they kept like the Heathcliff and like Wally and Top Dog, all the Star imprints. They usually kept their own packages, because they knew somebody who was looking for Spider-Man is probably not going to be interested in the Heathcliff issue in the middle, and vice versa. They're not going to hide a Spider-Man issue in Heathcliff. So I think they did keep them for their Star imprints. And then speaking of Heathcliff, it's funny though, at this time, I really liked Heathcliff, the cartoon. Remember the cartoon with Heathcliff, no one should, with the Cadillac Cats? Again, I wasn't really into cutesy things, but I really did. I watched Inspector Gadget and Heathcliff pretty religiously. Gadget wasn't as kiddie. They're more humans. They weren't, what do you call it, talking animals, but, or anthropomorphic animals. But, I really liked the Heathcliff. I actually liked the Cadillac Cats more than like Heathcliff. I always liked watching their episodes better than Heathcliff, but I still liked Heathcliff. I can, like I said, I mean, there's certain colors of furniture. I can feel sick. I can taste chicken noodle soup, microwave Salisbury steak. I mean, there's just so many. When I think of Heathcliff and I hear the music and I see the cartoon, there's just a cacophony of memories that just flood into my head. And set, like I said, smells, tastes, color, sound, just so many things all of this stuff. But like I said, whenever Inspector Gadget and Heathcliff, when that stuff would come on, it would put me like in a different, like it would take me right back to that time period. Again, now with Micronauts was starting to make its end of its run here, and I did pull up a Micronaut, so I'm not going to dwell on it forever, but let's just look at it real quick. Because I just acquired these just recently. I wanted these nice new omnibus versions, and if they came out with an omnibus, so I finally got some CBRs with the updated colors, so they don't look like scans from actually newsprinted comics. This is towards the end. I mean, New Voyages went a little longer than issue 9. I think it went to issue 25-ish. I can't remember. And then it finally ended up, succumbing to time and interest, losing interest in it. But I still really liked Micronauts at this time. Kelly Jones doing the artwork in it. It's funny. It's just like, what's with this purple or whatever, magenta beast / gorilla? I mean, it looks just like Beast. But I mean, great art. A lot of, and Biotron looks a little wonky there. That's kind of a wonky face. Biotron looks a little squirrely. Here's Bug. It's a Croyer, but he's out of his armor, which was my favorite character, was a Croyer. And then, of course, I'm going to call her Mademoiselle. What the heck is her name? Mannequin. But yeah, like I said, the artwork, I still liked the artwork at the time, and I liked, like I said, I liked this character. Can't remember what this guy's name was. He was kind of a later add-on character. Wow, that's weird, she's out of costume. But yeah, great comic. Well, obviously not great enough, because it finally ended up coming to the to cancellation. Power Pack, I think I mentioned this before, never collected Power Pack, I had no interest in seeing. I didn't have any interest in seeing comic book characters and superheroes that were my age at the time of 11, which is probably what these kids are, but I really didn't want to see like 8 and 9-year-old comic book characters. I had no interest in that. So that was one I totally turned my nose up right off the bat. Again, Savage Sword of Conan, I don't have one on hand to show you the interior artwork, and obviously this one was a great cover. It really, if this one didn't catch a teenage boy's attention, nothing will. But again, I didn't have a lot of them, and that's the thing, is trying to find them now and reading them now, it's more like it's not really, it's nostalgia, but it's more like I wanted to always read these, or I always wanted to pick these up. I mean, you could, they would sell these to kids, and sometimes there'd be nudity in it, but they wouldn't like bar them up like they would the heavy metal issues. And I had a couple here and there. I didn't have that. I wanted that one, but I didn't have that one. But again, I was still reading off and on Conan, regular Conan title from Marvel. So the Savage Sword of Conan was always just like once in a blue moon, once in a literal blue moon, I would get one, or I'd look through one. I take that back. I used to still kind of flip through them a lot when I went to the bookstore. Gru, I really liked Gru. I had a neighbor, which was a little bit after this point, when we moved from downtown Rochester up to the trailer park. I had a neighbor that first person I kind of befriended in the trailer park, and he was a couple of years younger than me. And he really was into Gru the comic. We loved Gru the comic book. and he'd always bring over like a ton of them. He'd always have a ton of them, and I had some. I had this one. Like I said, I had some of the ones like right around this time, but when I met him later, like in 1987, I kind of stopped collecting it, sort of. And he would, I think I even traded or sold him off some of the ones that I had that he didn't have because he was just so into Gru. But I liked it. I mean, I thought it was funny. You know, of course, you know, reading Conan the Barbarian, reading Guru the Wanderer, and it's a parody of Conan. So I kind of liked that. I really liked you know, I was really into the Ninja Turtles at the time, so I loved samurai swords and katanas. The 80s, what do you expect? Samurai swords and katanas, and I loved the way they would draw them. Again, this thing here, the Sisterhood of Steel, all these epic titles for the most part, I see them all the time, but I never really got into them. Like I said, they just felt so adult to me. Like, as I'm not old enough to read those, even though they weren't technically, wasn't like it was adult material. It was more sophisticated. It seemed more literary than I wanted to really tackle. So I kind of, like I said, I flipped through them occasionally. Again, you'd end up with a couple of these. These were definitely ones because they didn't sell that great, and you would end up with a Sisters of Steel, a Dune adaptation, and a Marvel fanfare. Definitely, if you bought those little packs, you'd end up with one of those, or a Coyote. Some of those. Top Dog. I don't even remember Top Dog at the time. I'm thinking back. I don't even remember seeing this on the shelf. I'm sure it was there, but because I had zero interest in it, it just, you know. Same thing with Wally. I don't remember this being on the shelf. And like I said, I'm sure it was, but zero interest. Again, we had Transformers UK. You know what's funny? Let me just double check real quick. Did we ever find a Transformers issue from... Because didn't Transformers start in 84? Yeah, didn't it? I can't remember. I don't think we found a Transformers issue from February, did we? We should have. I don't know what I'm saying. Yeah, the G.I. Joe, and I swear there was a Transformers issue. Or was it bi-monthly? You know, it might have been bi-monthly. Let me just see. Because if it was in January, now we're going way out of context, but there's the Dune #1. Sorry to throw it off here. I'm just curious. I know G.I. Joe was monthly. Maybe it was bi-monthly at the time? The Transformers? Why am I not seeing it? Maybe it had to have started it, because if Transformers UK #12, which is like usually like a collection, because the UK comics usually collected 2 or 3 issues together, I'm assuming it was already out by then. What's going on with the Transformers? So I'm going to skip ahead real quick just into March. Just want to see if, you know, if I don't solve this riddle by the end of this video, you guys can... Oh, there we go. Yeah, #5. Okay, so there was one in March, #5, so why wasn't there a #4 in either February or January? Again, that's the British one. Maybe it was in that missing week. Maybe they just don't... You know what? I might have just imagined last time that maybe it was in this missing week, and I'm just not seeing it. They just don't have it put in. It's weird. They usually don't do that, but again, I would swear they had a weird week where comics were late or something was going on, and I thought that's what it was that week, but I could be wrong. All right, let's just go back here then. So again, I'm going to stop. I'm not going to go. I'm going to talk just a little bit longer, but I'm not going to go to the next week and dive in. Like I said, I want to keep these weekly. I'm probably going to record them on Wednesday. It seems like the easiest day for me to record them, and it also gives me a prompt to check my, you know, see if I have any comics on my box at my local comic shop. But I'm not really collecting much. I'm mostly just getting the facsimiles, which is just reprints of this stuff. But I would say, if I was to I was a kid, and I was having a kid conversation sitting on someone's porch, with my shoebox of comics or my bag of comics that I just bought from Rochester Book Center, Fireside. And we were sitting there at somebody's porch on a summer. Well, actually, it wouldn't have been summer. It'd be March, so we'd probably be sitting inside and reading comic books. That's the thing we would do, is I would go with my friend, ride my bike there. Not every time, but we'd ride my bike there. We'd get our comics, and then we'd go over to either my place, my mom's, or we'd go to his house, which he lived on the other side of the park, the Rochester, the municipal park. And we'd sit on his porch, or we'd go sit in the park, if obviously it was nice out. If we were riding our bikes, like I said, I would ride my bike in the snow, but if it was winter time, we'd probably hauled up over at someone's house. A lot of times I would because I just wanted a quiet place to read that wasn't home. In the Rochester Hills Public Library was right downtown Rochester. The old one, the original one. Remember, I had a whole video I talked about this. I would just take, because I had some comfortable areas to read and quiet, and I would just take my comics that I just bought from Rochester Book Center, ride my bike through the snow back down to Rochester, and I would lock my bike up, and I'd go into the library and go and sit down on those cushions and stuff down there in the kids area, and I would sit there with my bag of comics and read comic books if I didn't want to go home, but like I said, regardless, we read comics with your friends. You'd sit around, and it was, you're not talking. Instead of you both sitting on your tablet or your phone and not talking, you both have this piece of paper, this booklet of paper in front of you, and you're reading. And and you'd say stuff like, "Hey, what's your favorite comic you got this week?" And so I'm going to start that. I'll do this as a little tradition here. While we're doing these, what would be my favorite comic this week? I'm gonna say probably. We didn't go. I'm not gonna waste your time and go through Alpha Flight at the moment. And like I said, I've just got a crappy scan of the original comic, so it's not the best looking. But probably Amazing Spider-Man. Definitely is my favorite comic of this week. Again, I had this one, and Guru, and I believe that was all I bought off the rack. So that was, also, let's check this out, because I want you to see something. 65 cents, right? Let's get a calculator going here. I should be able to do this in my head, but I'm not going to. So 65 cents plus, what else do we got? Spider-Man. I hit the plus 65 cents. Plus, there's no tax on these, by the way. We have 65 cents here. And where's Gru? Gru was more because it was an epic. Yeah, it was 75 cents. Which, of course, became $1 when they raised it. Or 85. I think they raised it to $1 when they went to 75 cents in their normal comics. So plus 75 cents. So $2 is $3. 3 $1 bills or just a pocket full of change. That's all I needed. I tried to use, because I didn't know exactly what was coming out. So I would usually, and I didn't want to not be able to pick something up. So I usually try to make it a point to have at least $5 in my pocket, whether it was a $5 bill, a bunch of sweaty ones, a bunch of sweaty quarters, change rolled up in my sock or whatever. But I used to try to at least have $5, because that would, a heavy week, unless they had Marvel Universe came out, which is $1.25, or it had a $1 comic book, I usually could cover a week's amount of comics. And I'm going to end on this one just for this one, and I'll probably bring this up quite a bit. This will probably take us out of the video. I answered a Comics by Perch thing, and I was talking, and I made a comment about, think about this, who do you think was buying the most comic books in this time? This is when kids were buying comic books, like myself. But again, I had a $5 bill in my pocket, right? Let's just say, hypothetically, I got a $5 bill in my pocket, and I go to comics, and it's a heavy week, and I spend all $5, and I buy, 6, 7 comic books in a week, right? And then next week, so let's just say I did that every week, which I didn't, because obviously I only spent $2.70 this week. I would spend $20 a month, right? Who do you think's gonna make the bookstore and obviously Marvel or the comic book companies, publishers, more money? Me, or this is a common thing, especially at Rochester Book Center. I saw this quite a bit in Fireside because I had the spinner rack. I see this. I would show up on New Comic Book Day. I usually call them, I'd call them on the phone and say, hey, are new comic books in? Yep. Okay. I'd get on my bike. I'd go. When I get there, I'd usually see at least 3 to 4 adult men. I would say not even in their 20s, like in their maybe late 20s to early 30s. And they would come through. They would come in, and they would literally not pay attention to what they bought. They would literally go to the spinner rack and just do this. And they might even have bought an issue that they already bought. They literally, I'm being a little hyperbolic, but I'm pretty sure that some of them just indiscriminately just pulled every single new comic off that list. And this is before comic book shops would have pull lists and stuff, because there wasn't a much of a direct market. So sometimes they would get there early, like before the employee actually took them out of the box and put them on the shelves. And they would just go through, and they would buy literally DC, Marvel, whatever was on that shelf. Not a lot of Dark Horse. There was no Image back then. So they would literally go through it, and they would buy every single comic on that rack, right? Now, I'm not going to waste your time with the math here, but let's just say on average those comics are 75 cents a piece. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're not going to count this in 10, 11, 12, not count it, 13. Let's just say 12 on average a week. Again, I can't do the math in my head. 12 times 75 cents. So we'll cover some of the ones for a little more. $10, right? And let's say they took $10 of Marvel and they bought $10 of DC and let's say $5 of miscellaneous, like Epics or something like that, or they picked up Savage Sword of Conan, which at the time was $1.50. $25, right? I would spend at most $5 a week. They would spend $25 a week. Not even bad night. Because, I mean, they were adults and they had grown-up money. And $25 a week, I guess it's still expensive today. But if you had a decent job, and these guys looked not super well-to-do, but this was Rochester. They're obviously working adults. I'm sure they had, money in their pocket. I don't even remember seeing anybody even do it, with the credit cards back then. Because I would watch these people, like a freak. But I'd watch these people because I was just like in awe of I was taking everything in. I was learning, the world, and I would see these guys, and I was just in awe. Like they literally bought every single new comic book that they put out this week, and just walked out the door. Hey Doug, hey Jimmy, hey Bob, and it's just away they went. And I'm still I can see them walking out of the Rochester Book Center and going to the parking lot and getting in their whatever they drove at the time, their Pontiac or their Chevy Citation or whatever, their Pontiac J2000 or whatever, and then just take it off. And I'm just like, I was in awe. I was like, I want to be able one day to be able to do that. This is my point I was making when I talked about when I was responding to the one video was, imagine doing that today. Marvel's putting out more than 12 comic books a week, right? They're putting out probably 20 a week. So near 100, 90 comic books a month at minimum $4 a comic, more like $5 a comic. Again, this is just Marvel. Again, let's just do the math. What do we say, $10 for all of the Marvels back then? So let's just say they put out 90 comics, right? Times, at best, and they're not all $3.99. Some of them are $4.99, some are $5.99. $360 in just Marvel for the month. Think about that. That's insane. And the thing is, I've seen people do this today. I don't see it all that much, but there was a guy that I saw at my comic book shop, and I know he has a pretty good job because I've seen him work at the pharmacy. So he's a pharmacist, and I watched this guy come in, and he picked up his comics for the month, not just the week. He picked up his comics for the month, and he's like, "Hey, you know, like, what do you got for me?" And I was like, "Oh, here's your month's comic books," and he gives him a stack of comic books this big, and it was like $250. I'm like, Jesus! It's like he was getting everything, pretty much, for the most part. And I was just like, oh my God. I mean, literally like a half of a small box in 1 month. You know, $250. I'm sure we're probably right around what we spend every month. Sometimes little, sometimes more. I mean, I'm just speculating here, but I'm just saying there are people that do that, and they're usually, and I think that guy's around my age. I think he's older than I am. I still think I'm 13, even though I'm in my 50s. But anyways, yeah, it just boggled my mind. But I mean, to see that back then though was pretty common, and it wasn't that absurd. I mean, I had money like that because, like I said, I used to mow lawns, especially in the summer. I would have $100 in a can, my little can that I had. I'd have $100 in there, and I'd go buy Transformers, or I'd go buy whatever. Nowadays I was getting more into comic books, but I could easily go there and just buy every single comic off the shelf. But I did, I was just like, I don't have the interest. I don't want Top Dog. I don't want Wally. I don't want Sisterhood of Steel or Power Pack. But and again, this is one thing I'll probably talk about. This will be the last thing I promise. Is people say like, hey, there's not that many good comic books coming out in a given month today. I agree, especially lately. I've kind of stopped collecting a lot of stuff because I just don't like where everything's at. But people are like going, I collect like 5 comic books. When I was still buying a lot of modern 5-6 comic books a month, right? But if you think about it, let's say this week I bought the 4, and let's say on average let's times that by 4. Okay, 15, 16 comic books I bought a month. And again, once like Micronauts died off, that's out. And again, I didn't keep up with Gru. I literally kept up with Amazing Spider-Man. I got West Coast Avengers when it started coming out. Uncanny X-Men, Peter Parker, Web of Secret Wars, or Marvel Universe, or whatever specialty issue or limited series issue, or we're gonna probably hit long shot at this point. Something came out that I ended up buying, and so I really didn't. I mean, I didn't collect everything, and like I said, I wouldn't collect any DC, and there wasn't a DC Image back then, and I don't even think I knew what Dark Horse was back then in '85. So, like I said, I'm saying I knew. I think I did know what it was. I can't remember. Sorry, but yeah, I'll leave you on that. So think about those two statements. The guys collecting of all those comic books all at once, just pulling them indiscriminately, and how many did you really collect in a given month? Back then, if you were around back then, you were collecting, or today, just let me know. Hit me up with the comments and tell me what you're talking. Tell me what your experiences are. All right. So on that note, it's 45 minutes or 43 minutes, so I will let you go on that one, and catch you next week for this particular series. All right. Bye bye.